Okay, so we are back, and we're going to go through chapter 1 of The Open Society and Its Enemies by Karl Popper. This chapter is entitled Historicism and the Myth of Destiny. And it starts off with it is widely believed that a truly scientific or philosophical attitude towards politics and a deeper understanding of social life in general must be based upon a contemplation and interpretation of human history. While the ordinary man takes the setting of his life and the importance of his personal experiences and petty struggles for granted, it is said that the social scientist or philosopher has to survey the things from a higher plane. He sees the individual as a pawn, as a somewhat insignificant instrument in the general development of mankind. And he finds that the really important actors on the stage of history are either the great nations and their great leaders, or perhaps the great classes or the great ideas. However this may be, he will try to understand the meaning of the play which is performed on the historical stage. He will try to understand the laws of historical development. If he succeeds in this, he will, of course, be able to predict future developments. He might then put politics on a solid basis and give us practical advice by telling us which political actions are likely to succeed or likely to fail. And so, at the very beginning here, we're just going to get kind of this cursory rundown of the situation with respect to history. And one of the things that Karl Popper has the biggest problem with is what he calls historicism, which is where we look at history and we read it as though it were a continuous narrative with certain necessary next steps. It's kind of funny. I've been in a discussion with some of my friends at Serious Philosophy today about Laplacian Determinism. And the argument against Laplacian Determinism, of course, is that no language is complex enough to deal with reality without making a bunch of abstractions and kind of losing the thingness, as it were, of the universe. So you can't create a model of the universe that could be perfect and make perfect predictions because it's impossible to create a model with that much detail. And so the reason that I find that relevant here is that what Popper is looking at with respect to historicism is something very much like Laplacian determinism. These historicists want to sort of reduce everything down to this simple form with all of its complexity stripped away. And from that, they want to try to make prescriptions about what we're supposed to do. But that doesn't work very well for a variety of reasons, not least the objections put forth by David Hume. So we know that there are some issues there. And let's just kind of move along and pick up the thread, as it were. Yeah, here he says it's what we call historicism. And then down here he tells us just a little bit more about what historicism is. But if historicism is a faulty method that produces worthless results, then it may be useful to see how it originated and how it succeeded in entrenching itself so successfully. An historical sketch undertaken with this aim can, at the same time, serve to analyze the variety of ideas which have gradually accumulated around the central historicist doctrine, the doctrine that history is controlled by specific historical or evolutionary laws whose discovery would enable us to prophesy the destiny of man. And this prophetic philosophical thread is something that Popper is no fan of. He doesn't think anybody's got it figured out on that level. So he says, moving on, a criticism of the theistic interpretation of history will be attempted in the last chapter of this book. That's kind of the point of the book, if you ask me, where it will also be shown that some of the greatest Christian thinkers have repudiated this theory as idolatry. And as we know, an idol is something that we worship, right? So anytime we're in theology and we're talking about idolatry, we could be talking about golden calf statues, or we could be talking about things like money, or even things like family. And then he says, an attack upon this form of historicism should not therefore be interpreted as an attack upon religion. So, some of the religious people agree with me. You can't say that I'm attacking religion here. Yeah, and then the two most important versions of historicism are the historical philosophy of racialism or fascism on the right hand, and the Marxian historical philosophy on the other hand. So basically, this is why Popper is going to get called a moderate, and it's because he wants to critique, the fascist ideologies that are being put forth by people like Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany and Mussolini in Italy. And he actually also thinks that the Marxists, like Sartre, have something that they're missing as well. So that was chapter 1. Let's go ahead and end that quick little recording. Like, subscribe, and follow. I'm not even sure those are the 3 right things to say. I need to probably work on that. But okay, so this recording is over, and we're going to do Heraclitus here in just a moment.